Smash Burger. The Smash Burger is not a burger that was accidentally flattened. It is a burger that was intentionally destroyed, and that destruction is the entire point. A ball of ground beef is pressed hard onto a screaming hot griddle, maximizing the surface area in contact with the metal. The Maillard reaction activates across the entire face of the patty. The result is more crust per bite than any thick patty can produce. Smash burgers existed at diners for decades before food media decided to call them a trend in the 2010s. The cooks who made them first never had a name for the technique, they just knew it worked. Salisbury Steak. Salisbury steak was invented by Dr. James Salisbury in 1888, who believed that Americans ate too many vegetables and that ground beef 3 times a day was the solution to most human illness. He was wrong about the medicine. He was accidentally right about the dinner. The dish, a seasoned beef patty smothered in brown onion gravy, became a staple of American TV dinners in the 1950s when frozen food companies needed something that survived freezing without becoming inedible. It did. Salisbury steak is now one of the most purchased frozen meals in the United States. A Victorian diet obsessive accidentally invented comfort food. Classic meatloaf. Every American family has a meatloaf recipe. No two are identical. Ground beef, breadcrumbs, egg, and whatever the family adds. Worcestershire, bell pepper, ketchup on top, brown sugar, a layer of bacon. The dish became standardized during the Great Depression when stretching meat with fillers was not a choice but a necessity. Home economists published meatloaf recipes in government pamphlets to teach families how to feed more people with less beef. The ketchup glaze on top became nearly universal because it was cheap, sweet, and caramelized beautifully in a home oven. Depression-era survival food became one of the most searched comfort meal recipes in the English-speaking world every single winter. Hardshell taco. The hardshell taco that Americans and Australians eat was not invented in Mexico. It was invented by Glenn Bell, who founded Taco Bell in 1962 after studying how a San Bernardino Mexican restaurant pre-fried taco shells to speed up service. Traditional Mexican tacos use soft corn tortillas. The crispy shell version was a fast food engineering decision. Mexico received the hard shell back as an American export decades later. The ground beef taco with shredded cheese, sour cream, and iceberg lettuce is now so globally recognized that it is the default image when most people picture Mexican food, despite being a California fast food invention. The original is still better. Most people have never tried it. Cottage pie. Cottage pie and shepherd's pie are not the same dish. Shepherd's pie uses lamb, cottage pie uses beef. This distinction matters enormously to British people and to no one else. The name comes from 18th century Britain, when cottagers, meaning poor rural workers, used leftover roasted meat and covered it with mashed potato to stretch it further. The potato topping was practical, not decorative. It sealed in heat and moisture and turned scraps into a complete meal. By the 20th century, cottage pie had become a British school dinner staple, which is both a compliment and an explanation for why British people have complicated feelings about it. It is simultaneously the food of poverty, childhood, and genuine comfort. Sloppy Joe. Nobody agrees on where the Sloppy Joe came from. One story credits a cook named Joe in a Sioux City, Iowa diner in the 1930s who added tomato sauce to loose meat sandwiches and refused to be neat about it. Another traces it to Sloppy Joe's bar in Havana, where Ernest Hemingway drank and a similar sandwich was served. Both stories are probably partially true and mostly mythology. What is certain is that ground beef and tomato sauce on a soft bun became a fixture of American school cafeterias, church potlucks, and home cooking because the ingredients are cheap and the preparation is forgiving. You cannot really overcook a sloppy Joe. The sloppiness is structural. Stuffed bell pepper. Stuffed peppers appear in almost every cuisine that has access to both peppers and ground meat. The American version, a bell pepper filled with ground beef, rice, and tomato sauce, became a mid-century home cooking staple because it solved the weekly question of how to make ground beef feel like a complete, considered meal. The pepper acts as edible cookware. It holds the filling, adds sweetness as it roasts, and means no extra dish to wash. Home economics teachers across the United States used stuffed peppers as the canonical lesson in how to build a balanced meal in a single vessel. It is still one of the most pinned dinner recipes on every food platform every autumn, reliably without exception. Beef kofta. Kofta is ground meat mixed with onion, herbs, and spices, shaped around a skewer and grilled over open flame. The dish is thousands of years old and exists in some form across the entire stretch of land from Morocco to Bangladesh. British and Australian food culture encountered kofta through immigration and colonialism simultaneously through South Asian and Middle Eastern communities arriving in both countries from the mid-20th century onward. By the 2000s, beef kofta had moved from ethnic grocery store grills to mainstream supermarket meal kits. It is now one of the most purchased BBQ items in Australian supermarkets every summer. A dish that fed armies across Central Asia is now the centerpiece of suburban weekend grilling from Melbourne to Manchester. Texas red chili. Chili con carne is the official state dish of Texas. Texans will tell you this proudly and then immediately tell you that real chili contains no beans. The bean question has divided American households for over a century and shows no signs of resolution. Chili originated on the Texas frontier in the 1800s, where it was sold by women known as chili queens from open-air stands in San Antonio. The dish was cheap, filling, and could be made in enormous quantities. Canned chili appeared in 1908. Chili cook-offs became a competitive sport. There are now sanctioned chili competitions with judges, rulebooks, and disqualifications. A frontier stew became a national argument. Bolognese sauce. Bolognese is not spaghetti sauce with meat in it. Italians will correct you on this, and they will be right. The official recipe, registered with the Bologna Chamber of Commerce in 1982, specifies beef, pancetta, onion, carrot, celery, tomato paste, white wine, and milk. No garlic. No herbs beyond a bay leaf. The milk is not optional. It tenderizes the meat and rounds the acidity. The sauce should cook for a minimum of 2 hours. The version served at most Italian-American restaurants bears a loose resemblance to this. The version that became globally famous through jarred pasta sauce bears almost none. Bologna's government registered the recipe specifically because the rest of the world was getting it wrong. They have not stopped getting it wrong. Scotch egg. A Scotch egg is a hard-boiled egg wrapped entirely in seasoned sausage meat, coated in breadcrumbs, and deep-fried. It was invented in 1738 by the London department store Fortnum and Mason as a portable luxury snack for wealthy travelers making long carriage journeys. For 2 centuries, it remained a picnic food for the upper classes. Then it became a pub snack. Then it became a gastropub statement dish served with a runny yolk and artisanal mustard. Then it became a gas station snack sold in plastic packaging for under £1. The Scotch egg has traveled the entire British class system in both directions and is currently everywhere at once, being served at Michelin-starred restaurants and motorway forecourts on the same afternoon.